In the last section, we finished up our custom widget of app. We're going to come back to this file in just a little bit and do a better review of exactly what we accomplished in here, complete with a couple diagrams to give you a better idea of exactly what's going on here. But for right now, I just want to get our application working. I'm now going to flip back over to my main.dart file. So inside of this file, we want to import that new app widget that we just created, and then pass that app widget off to the run app function, which you'll recall takes a widget and shows it on the screen of our mobile device. So in order to get access to that custom app widget we just created, we have to add an import statement to the main.dart file. We've already spoken about import statements when we are importing files from an outside package. But this time around, we are importing a file that is defined inside of our own local project. To do so, we're going to write out a slightly different import statement than the one we did before. Let's first start off by taking a look at a quick diagram to give you a better idea of how we're going to write this import. Okay, so this right here is the complete story around imports. This covers the 3 different types of import statements that we're going to write inside of our Flutter applications. It covers the case in which we are importing code from the Dart standard library, in which we are importing a file in our lib directory to another file inside of our lib directory, so essentially importing a file that you and I wrote ourselves, and then importing something into our lib directory from a package that has been installed into our project. So let's first start with the one down here, because this is the one that we just took care of. So again, if we want to import something into our lib folder, or into a file in our lib folder, from anything outside that lib folder. So an example of this would be some outside package. Then we would write import, the word package, a colon, the package name, a slash, and then the name of the file that we want from that package. So again, this is the one that we've already done. Now let's go up to the very top, because this is another very easy import statement. If we want to import anything from the Dart standard library, then we just write out import, the word Dart, a colon, and then the name of the module from the Dart standard library that we want to import into our current file. We're going to have to write one of these import statements very shortly, so we'll come back to these in just a moment. So what we're going to do right now falls into this second case. We are trying to import something from our lib directory, or in other words, a file in our lib directory that you and I wrote, into another file inside our lib directory that you and I wrote. To do so, all we write out is the word import, the path to that file, like the relative path to that file, and then the name of the file that we are importing. And so both these import statements right here are examples of how we would import a sibling file. Now that starts to get a little bit complicated, so let's just flip back over to our code editor and I'll show you how we do this import statement for our particular case right now. Okay, so back over here, we are in a file inside of our lib directory, the main.dart file, and we want to import another file inside of our lib directory. Yes, it's nested inside of src, but ultimately the file is inside the lib directory. So we're going to write out import, then the path or the relative path to the file that we're trying to import. So I want to look into the src directory and find the app.dart file, like so. And that's it. So we're inside the main.dart directory. We're going to go into src and find the app.dart file. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's the second case right here. And we're going to see an example of this first case up here in just a moment. So we'll come back to this diagram at that point. All right, so now back over here. The last thing we have to do, now that we are importing our custom app widget, we're going to make sure that our run app function right here attempts to show an instance of our app widget. So I'm going to remove this var app because we don't really need to define our app ahead of time. And then into run app, I will pass app with a set of parentheses like so. So again, this takes our app class, creates a new instance out of it, and then we pass that instance off to run app. All right, so let's save this file. I'll go back over to my terminal. I'm going to do a full reload with Shift-R, and then I'm just going to expect to see the exact same content appear on the screen. At this point, there should be no changes, except for the fact I think my button should probably go back to a plus down here, because we just reverted that back to the icon add. And there we go. So there's my add icon, and my app just successfully restarted. So this looks pretty good. We have now created our own custom widget defined inside of a separate file. We then imported it back to the main.dart file and successfully showed it on the screen. So the steps we just went through was just a little confusing. So let's take a quick pause. We're going to come back to the next section, and we're just going to look at a diagram or two that's going to model out the current state of our application. So I'll see you in just a second.